Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for March 2nd to 8th. This week I finished reading one book, I watched 3 TV shows, and I finished listening to one book. I've been dreading this day for a while, the day that I only have one book that I've finished reading to talk about. I've been pushing myself to finish 2 or 3 books a week all year so that I would have more to talk about. And although I did open more than one book this week, I only talk about the books that I've finished so there isn't overlap in my videos. I did want to mention though that April 7th was Drop Everything and Read Day in support of Saskatchewan public libraries, which are facing a 58% budget cut. So I definitely read in solidarity that day and posted some great photos to Instagram with the appropriate hashtags, aka Octothorpe smushed with words. The only book I finished this week was King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, the third in her Red Queen series. It's just over 500 pages long, which is why I didn't finish anything else. I'm also not going to talk a whole lot about the plot because, spoilers, not only for this book, but the second book and possibly the first book. But I will give a quick rundown of the world because if it sounds like it's your cup of tea, you should read it. Our protagonist, Mare Barrow, is a red, which means that she has red blood, in a world where people with silver blood are royalty or nobility. These people have special powers passed down through their bloodline, like telekinesis, the ability to control flame, and the ability to control animals, to name a few. Reds are poor servants, and silvers are entitled masters. Obviously, something happens in the first book to change that status quo. I really enjoyed reading the first book in the series and recall needing the next book like air, but enough time passed between me reading it and the next one coming out that I was a little bit confused. I mean, I figured things out along the way and got caught up, but I always wish for a previously on type of arrangement when I'm reading a series. I've been away from the characters and I want to make sure that I'm remembering all of the important details. I had a similar dread going into the third book of the series because I did not have time to reread the other books in the series. But Aveyard did a great job of putting you right back in the action and where the characters were and reminding you who the characters are. I grew up reading a lot of Nancy Drew novels and it always felt like Carolyn Keene was giving you the exact same identifiers when she was reintroducing Bess and George, Nancy's best friends. Because these books can be easily read out of order, it made sense that you would have to reintroduce those characters in case somebody picked up the 20th book. But it was always formulaic. Aveyard, by comparison, could have made the mistake that people remembered all of the characters and their corresponding abilities, but she didn't, and reintroduced people without making it awkward. This week in private practice, I watched from Season 3, Episode 10 to Season 4, Episode 5. As per usual, I misjudged the exact length of the series and found myself having to watch the finale really quickly before leaving to go play wizard school with my friends. Fortunately, even though it had the usual soul-crushing effects of a Shondaland show, at least it wasn't a cliffhanger, as I had no access to the next season's disc until later in the week. One downside to watching seasons on discs that have been watched countless times before is there's a chance of scratches on the disc, which is only sometimes remedied by extracting the disc and wiping it on your sleeve, and hoping you didn't miss anything important when the machine skips over a flaw in the disc. It hasn't happened yet that there's been a reference to something I've missed, and I'm hoping it stays that way. This week in Making Chad Jump and having his temporary roommate laugh at him, we watched The Walking Dead Season 5, Episodes 3 to 8. We found out that the series did a half-season break at this point. Kind of like what you expect at a superhero movie, which has Chad paranoid that we have missed similar scenes in previous seasons. I kind of figure if we did, whatever was alluded to has already happened. So there's not much point in trying to go back and figure out if we missed anything. In Survivor news, this season is called Game Changers for a reason. They are trying really hard to break out of some of the established formulas of the show, so it feels like anything can happen. I also realized that Jeff Probst has kind of the best job ever. He gets to travel to exotic locations, work on his tan, and watch other people do obstacle courses and strategize about who gets to hang out with him the longest. How do I get a job where I get paid to travel like that and say basically the same dialogue for 17 years? This week I listened to The Tropic of Serpents by Marie Brennan, the second in the Lady Trent memoir series. If you missed my video which talked about the first in the series, A Natural History of Dragons, basically the series takes place in a society much like Victorian England, but in a made-up world that has dragons. Isabella, our protagonist, is on a new adventure to study a different type of dragon in a new climate, which brings all sorts of unexpected hiccups, such as the taboo of menstrual cycles, having to traipse through extremely hot and humid jungle to get to see a new species, and of course different dangerous situations, some of which that could have been avoided if Isabella's words weren't completely ignored because of her gender. This series is delightful and I'm currently on the waitlist for the third audiobook. Before I go, I just wanted to let you know that I am leaving for a family vacation this coming Saturday, which means that the next couple of videos will likely be shot in different locations and uploaded whenever I can find internet. This means I will probably get more books under my belt, as there's some travel time involved where I am not the one who's driving, and less of my usual TV shows. My niece and nephews will probably be watching Bubble Guppies, Paw Patrol, and Thomas the Tank Engine, but I don't think I'm going to review those for you guys. That's it for now. This week I'd love if you would tell me the last thing you read, watched, or listened to while you were on vacation and what you thought about it. On the way down in the comment section, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can also like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you next time, probably in a different location. Bye!